welcome to our second day. Oh, welcome, good morning. Get a seat. Our second day, our children, our future. Yesterday was amazing. We had a lot of inspirational speeches, but also we talk to each other, we collaborate, and today we are going to have also very inspirational speeches. But first of all, I want to ask you something, and that is, who spoke to a person they didn't know yet yesterday? Who spoke to a person they didn't know yet?
Well, I just now spoke to somebody in Bonaire who is into high scope. Remember the high scope class workshop? Yes. I was very enthusiastic about that. And then just now I spoke to somebody that's her trainer. So that was, yes, it's so nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it gets me very enthusiastic.
Well, nice. Another time to pronounce your name.
Suchita.
Suchita.
Yeah.
Suchita, can you stand up? Would you stand? And then, who spoke to a person? And nobody's going to do it, but if you look in the audience and then pick somebody. You can pick somebody, maybe the one with the green hair. Yes? Yeah, the lady smiling at you. Okay, thank you. Suchita, can she get a big round of applause from us? The lady. Oh, what's your name?
Elmora.
Elmora.
Yes.
Okay, and you spoke also with somebody you didn't know?
Suchita.
With Suchita?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the talk about? Where were you speaking about?
Well, actually, we were both at a conference last year.
Yes.
I recognized her, and I needed to know if she was the one. And she was.
And she was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And now you can pick another one. A man, maybe, to mix it. Camila, okay. Then we go to Camila.
One of the youth.
Oh, she's one of the youth. Okay. Camila. Oh, hi.
Hi.
Oh, yes, you can. You're one of the youth.
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us what your experience was. What was your ervaring yesterday? Oh, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yesterday was just basically, so I was at the conference in Curacao last year. So I basically had an experience of what was happening. Yesterday, it just reminded me of all the work and stuff we were doing in Curacao. And it gave us new ideas, especially we were in the session about the
Oh, yes, the kindertelephone. Yes,
the kindertelephone.
Yes.
So we was in that session, and me and my other colleague who's not feeling well today, we actually started brainstorming a couple things from that session as well, and just being able to get back into the system because I just came back from school, so just to be back into what's happening on the island and learning new stuff.
Okay, but you came from school, so you can give us a tip, because the professionals who are sitting here, what you want to say to them so they can do their work more. What's important to when you're working with children? What's important? What is belangrijk?
Patience.
Patience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. You get a big round of applause. Patience. Yes. Because we need patience if we work with children. We hebben geduld nodig als we met kinderen werken. Want kinderen zijn zo puur, their pureness, and sometimes they are, all the things that they see, they cannot pay attention, but they will pay attention if you respect them. Dus het is heel belangrijk om ze te respecteren. Okay. Yes. As you may know, we gathered here at a very special location, the University of St. Martin. But first of all, I want to ask you to stand up because we need to, yes, you know it? Everybody, also at the back, no, we cannot app today. Tell them you are here at an amazing conference. You don't have time to app and WhatsApp and things like that. Yes? Okay, we are going to point our left finger because you have practice. And left fingers and the right one is our thumbs. It's thumbs up. Thumbs up. Everybody, yeah, also, yeah. I know you don't like it, but do it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. And now we're going to switch because we can do this. We are professionals. We are working with children, so yes, it's going great. Okay, you can sit down. Oh, you keep on practice. I thought that you have practice when you come home, but you didn't practice. Wat zei je? Oh, jullie zijn nog niet wakker. Oh, moet ik jullie even wakker maken? Nee, oh, ja, we zijn wakker. Okay. The University of St. Martin. Because this is the place our children are being taught, educated and prepared for the future. De Universiteit van Sint Maarten. Dit is de plek waar onze kinderen allerlei lessen geleerd krijgen. Ze worden voorbereid op de toekomst. And maybe you are wondering what happens with all those students. Wat gebeurt er nou met al die studenten? Nou, we hebben geluk. We are lucky. Because today we have one of them in our midst. And I'm honored to introduce our first keynote speaker of the day, Cassandra Richardson, the Executive Director of the Safe Haven Foundation. Join me in a warm applause for Cassandra.
So today, my speech, or as a friend called it, my spit, because it's a speech skit, we will be looking at witnesses of domestic violence who are children, and then also looking a little bit at the intergenerational violence that happens and how that perpetuates also domestic violence in our communities. Okay? So because I did not learn my speech by heart this morning, for all you wonderful people, I will try to give you eye contact every now and then, so often. But please bear with me. So my tenure with the Safe Haven Foundation concerning public education about domestic violence has been quite an interesting one, filled with growth and much humility. This because while doing the work of education and bringing awareness and education around domestic violence to the hearts and minds of St. Martin community, I try to do it as authentically as possible. Not only pushing international stat numbers, because we don't have so much of our own, but drawing from the stories and lived experiences of women, men, and children that I and the team at Safe Haven support. So just as I wholeheartedly believe that we cannot do the work of eradicating abuse of women, which is worldwide observed and reported at disproportionately higher rates than that of men and boys, if we aren't engaging men in the conversation, I also wholeheartedly believe that it is more impactful for society's learning when victims of domestic violence offer their testimonies of domestic violence, no matter how horrific and unaccountable, and the public bear witness and listen with respect and compassion. It is in the discomfort where the learning is more prone to happen. I make the same claims to better understand the adverse effects of children who experienced or are experiencing domestic violence, that we must, as professionals who care for children and youth, listen to their stories and bear witness so that we are motivated to feel and to assist and to protect them and help them to stop perpetuating broken and dysfunctional people. The batch of domestic violence victims that unapologetically speak out, and one of them are here today with me, Michelle. They speak out against abuse, and they are few and far between. Some experience undeserved feelings of deep shame about their abuse, what I feel is erroneous thinking on the victim's behalf. They may have a sense to shield family and children by not talking about it. Some, quite frankly, don't want to talk about it anymore as they feel that abuse was their past and have healthily moved on. But yet some want to tell their story, and they want more than me or others to hear it. So I offer myself as a conduit or a channel to which others can tune in and bear witness. When I work with victims of abuse, and if I find their story particularly motivating or nuanced or fitting in addressing a gap where I believe people are not getting it, I always ask my clients if they would like anyone else to know, and what, if they had the opportunity to tell others, would they want others to know? As this is one of the best ways I know how to motivate learning and aggravate systemic change. Guarding anonymity and privacy with the strength, courage, and deep pain of tens of children and women that I have come across doing this work in St. Martin that propels me, I'd like to offer an excerpt from my case notes with a client, nearly 40 years old, to help illustrate some points that I would like to make about children who are victims, whether they have experienced it or whether they bore witness to it. Names of these individuals have been changed to protect their identity. These names are made up, so if you recognize the names here, truly it is purely coincidental. Okay, so we're going to do the reenactment, and Karen.
Miss Cassie? I won't lie, Miss Cassie. But I went back to his house. Miss Cassie, I was seeing it all along. I just have a soft spot for James.
Well, like I said, we don't say that you can't see the person that abused you. It's your choice, Shirley. But I highly discourage this.
Miss Cassie, he's the one who put me here. He's the one who acted like a monster. And he put me here.
So why you visit him? Why do you go? Hold on. How is the program going? Are you attending the program?
Yes, Miss Cassie. I meet with Miss Shadia every Saturday. And you know what? I'm really learning something, you know.
Okay, good, good. Okay, go on. Tell me about the visit with James.
Miss Cassie, I went to his house. And you know I could fight. I'm real strong. I could fight. But Miss Cassie, I never raised a hand at James. And you know what? I didn't do anything else because I thought that you would think that I'm a bad person.
I don't think that you're bad.
Well, there are a lot of people that think so. So I guess I am.
Do you always believe what people say, Shirley?
No, Miss Cassie. But not all the time, but maybe sometimes.
Okay,
I don't care sometimes about what they say.
good. Good for you. So tell me what happened when you went to visit James.
Miss Cassie, you know, I have a soft spot for James. So I went to his house. His house was dirty. Filthy, Miss Cassie. And I cleaned it completely. And when I was done, he slapped me. He slapped me so hard across my face. And Miss Cassie, you know I could fight. And I didn't want to raise my hand at him. But Miss Cassie, with all honesty, I beat him. I beat him, Miss Cassie. I found a stick at the side of the press in the bedroom. And I beat him. I beat him so bad, Miss Cassie. When I was finished, he had welts all over his body. And you know why I was beating him? He was there shielding himself. And I tell him, don't shield yourself, because when you were beating me, I didn't shield myself. So don't shield yourself. But Miss Cassie, I know I was wrong.
Well, surely I understand why you did it. He hurt you and he had been hurting you for a while. And you never lift a hand on him. But I do feel you could have done something else.
Like what, Miss Cassie? Leave? No, Miss Cassie. No, not leave. Miss Cassie, let me tell you, I could not leave. You know what I felt after I beat him? I felt so relieved. Oh, what a relief for everything. I didn't feel weak again. That weakness left me. And Miss Cassie, it felt good. I can be honest with you. But Miss Cassie, you know I could fight. I could fight real hard. When I was small, I fight girls. I fight boys. I fight big men. I fight big women. Miss Cassie, I could fight. But you know, I don't like to see people sad. I don't like to see them, worried. Miss Cassie, you know that I just tell jokes. Because I just like people to be laughing and happy. But you see me, Miss Cassie. I have so much pain and so much hurt. I have so much anger, Miss Cassie. The kettle, Miss Cassie. I am so sorry.
Why are you apologizing, Shirley?
The kettle. Oh, Susie went and put the kettle on. She just wanted to make all of us tea. And everybody thought I was upset. They thought I was angry with them. So I cursed them all out. And I went to my bedroom. I went there to think.
Okay, all right, that's okay. But you mentioned the kettle. What about the kettle, Shirley?
Miss Cassie, I was jumping. Like little children, I was jumping up and down in the chair. And that blasted woman. That blasted excuse for a mother. Let me tell you. She saw me jumping. She saw me jumping, Miss Cassie. she just didn't like it.
So, was your mother abusive?
Well, I don't know about that, Miss Cassie. All I know, she used to beat me for every little thing, Miss Cassie.
So you're saying that she hated you?
Miss Cassie, I asked her, but she made me with a married man. And things didn't work out. And you know what? I told her it cannot be my fault. It wasn't my fault. Oh yes, I really look like my father. I'm his splitting image, Miss Cassie.
Tell me what happened.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, Miss Cassie. I won't lie. I was jumping in a chair. And she called me. That blasted excuse for mother, she called me. And Miss Cassie, I didn't want to go because I didn't trust her. And when she said that so calmly, I didn't trust her, Miss Cassie. But after, firmly, she called me again. And I was scared. But I was bold. And I answer and I say, why? What happened? And she was there, she was boiling some water in that kettle. And she poured the water out in 2 basins, Miss Cassie. And Miss Cassie, she take up 1 basin of water and she directed towards me. And I was just able to take my hand and bat it away so it didn't catch me. And when you look, Miss Cassie, she looked at me. And I tell her, it ain't my fault that things ain't work out with that married man. She had me with that married man, yes, but things ain't work out, Miss Cassie. And I was not supposed to be blamed for it. And you know, it touched her. I think it hurt her, Miss Cassie. She take up the 2nd basin and she threw it at me. She scarred all my arms, all my legs. And then to make it worse, you know what she do to me in the end? She take her precious daughter. She locked the door and she left with her. And she leave me in the house, screaming for help, Miss Cassie. She left me there all alone.
How old were you, Michelle?
I was 7.
Domestic violence is not just a woman's issue. It's not just even a community's issue. It's a real and very problematic public health concern. And when children are involved, whether they sustained any type of myriads of abuse you can think of or have witnessed it, which is also a type of abuse, some professionals will argue, the effects are more severe for not just the child, but society as a whole. In Shirley's case, even though she could fight, like she told me on countless occasions during that session, she still fell prey to being a victim of domestic violence. Some may see it as redemption. For me, I don't remark, but she also became the abuser to her abusive partner. What you didn't see and hear in the reenactment, even though she said in the session that she didn't hit her children admitted to cursing them out and calling them names. So verbally abuses her children and blames them for being in the situation of domestic violence because she claims she's doing it for them. At the time this session had taken place, Shirley had stopped talking to her children for over 3 weeks and stated that she told them that it was their fault that she was eating blows from a man. It sounds to me that Shirley is using the same coping mechanisms her own mother used to address her shame and frustration, although she swore to her mother that she would never, ever be like her. Without interception of child protection officers and counselors and proper processes that should be enforced, intergenerational domestic violence is not just persistent, but pervasive and spreads like wildfire that isn't controlled. And no man is an island. It will inevitably touch you. Dysfunctional behaviors in classrooms where your own kids are prevented from learning, deviant and violent behavior in society, perhaps even a child of domestic violence marries or courts one of your own children, and now it becomes your problem. There is substantial evidence indicating that children who witness domestic violence have psychosocial maladaptation that is associated with demonstrable changes in the anatomic and physiological makeup of the central nervous system. So a problem with the brain and brain development. Individuals with these changes do not function well in society and present communities with serious medical, sociological, and economic dilemmas. In one Ohio study done in 2014 that looked at the physiological changes of children who had just only witnessed domestic violence, the reports were very concerning. The report's perspective is from the vantage point of the USA, yes, specifically Ohio, but it does recognize that DV is without a doubt an international problem. The report's brief perspective served to raise the level of awareness in regard to harmful effects that occur in children who witness domestic violence. The report encouraged the readers to understand that witnessing DV, let alone being the primary target of DV, makes children susceptible to post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, isn't that an acronym that we've heard so often after the hurricanes? Such an exposure may result in anatomical and physiological alterations in their brain structure, with subsequent personal and social consequences. So let's talk PTSD. The criteria for PTSD has changed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, so the DSM-5. Anyone familiar with that, I'm sure. So since 2013, it's changed. We haven't had a new one yet. PTSD's criteria have now been divided into sections for those over 6 years of age and those under 6 years of age. And they look at the symptoms duration for more than a month. In the older group, PTSD encompasses the following. 1, exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury or sexual violence. 2, the presence of intrusion symptoms associated with the traumatic events. So for instance, playing of themes, distressing dreams, flashbacks, physiological reactions, marked psychosocial distress. And 3, persistent avoidance of the stimuli associated with the traumatic events. 4, negative alterations in cognitive, so in the thinking, and mood associated with the event. And 5, marked alterations in arousal associated with the events, which is irritability, anger, recklessness, hypervigilance, so not able to sleep, exaggerated startled response, so anything sort of surprises them, problems with concentration, so staring off into space, and sleep disturbances. Among those less than 6 years of age directly experiencing the trauma, witnessing the events as they occurred, especially to primary caregivers, or merely learning that an event had occurred to a parent or primary caregiver will be enough to set off PTSD. Also, it should be noted that among children, this fear and helplessness may present as disorganized or agitated behavior. The traumatic event may be re-experienced as an instant replay, so all of a sudden they'll be just maybe in the playground and reenact this again in the following ways by a child's psyche. They may engage in play where certain themes or aspects of the trauma are expressed. It may be manifested as the appearance of frightening dreams about discernible content. C, the child may reenact specific aspects of the traumatic event. Evidence shows that children who merely witness DV will or can have PTSD, and it has been demonstrated time and time again that they may develop serious adjustments and behavioral problems. Given the evidence at hand, there is no doubt that DV can produce post-traumatic stress responses in children. Tribulations of witnessing DV in early childhood have been shown to have serious consequences on mental health, and early life strain has been associated with cognitive difficulties such as poor academic accomplishments, lower intelligence quotients, as well as poor language skills. Deficient memory as well, lack of inhibition, and inattention. These problems can persist into adolescence and adulthood. A history of witnessing DV or sexual victimization in childhood may increase the risk of subsequent marriage to an abusive partner. And childhood cumulative trauma, but not adulthood trauma, may predict the complexity of PTSD symptoms in adults. So it's even more harmful when a child witnesses domestic violence or has gone through any sort of traumatic, violent experience in childhood, and if they skipped it and it happened to be in adulthood, the effects are longer lasting because of brain development at that stage. So how can a child witnessing DV become a public health issue? So the brain has the ability to modify neural hormonal functions. In children who have witnessed DV, the brain's response system is impaired. So in other words, such children demonstrate the following: increased depression, anxiety, more self-harm, a deficient ability to learn, poor concentration, and a generalized irritability. The impact for children witnessing and experiencing abuse is significant. But the impact on the community at large is of importance and concern as well. The impacts on child witnesses extend beyond families and children. These children have impaired learning skills. Now, here is when it becomes a larger problem, one that I'm sure that many, if not all in this room, can attest to observing what is going on in the St. Martin community, which has been a hot topic for a while now. As these children age, they will also have different sorts of memories. These memories may be very hyper-emotional and respond in a different manner than they would have otherwise. Consequently, society may have difficulty preserving individual safety through an inability to decrease violence, while at the same time it has to support unproductive or underproductive members of society. The cumulative findings from these studies support the presence of neurobiological development alterations in children with DV and assume PTSD. So the bigger picture. First, a better and more complete understanding about domestic violence needs to be considered. Are we really and truly understanding that how we parent and provide service, think about the situation of DV, is it problematic? Is it okay to beat children? Is it okay as a social worker working in your respective professions to let the father see the children who have been abusive to his female partner without supervision and without any intervention for him or her? What can these serious consequences mean for that child and for society at large? Are our policies reflective of progressive and targeted practice that will protect the health and rights of children while protecting the public health of a nation? Not just at home, so in individual territories within the kingdom, but between kingdom territories, we must be vigilant about the care and support we provide. As mentioned before, no man is an island. But being part of a kingdom may serve more as a benefit than a drawback. Other islands around us don't have abuse shelters for women at all. And while some in our kingdom do not, we can draw from our collective resources to make it work. Safe Haven alone this year has been involved with 3 kingdom shelters in different parts of the kingdom besides their own, and have been involved with 5 kingdom territories about domestic violence services where children were involved. Even though we have many kinks to smoothen out, I am hopeful and motivated that we can make it work. But this requires us all. This includes policymakers, social workers, police officials, youth protection institutions, teachers, heads of departments, youth program designers and facilitators, mentors, all professionals that are in some way formally or informally involved with the advancement of youth and children. We will get there if we come to know one thing and agree on it, that youth and children have rights, they deserve to be protected, and we should do that to the best of our ability with the new information that we are given. We must seek knowledge and education at every turn and learn the best practices for communication and enforce our policies that protect youth and children. It is paramount, not just to the survival of our children, but also to the health of our nations. I thank you.
Wow, can she get another round of applause from us? Cassandra Richardson, from the heart. Een heartfelt speech, echt heel mooi. Ik zal even wat korte dingen in het Nederlands herhalen voor de mensen die Nederlands spreken onder ons. Het ging erover dat geweld, huiselijk geweld, dat is zo'n trauma voor kinderen. En dat kan ook zijn schelden. Het hoeft niet alleen maar fysiek te zijn. Maar het schelden, schreeuwen, dat kan al als een trauma aanvoelen. En zodra die kinderen het als een trauma ervaren, dan gebeurt er wat in de hersenen. De hersenen, dat wordt vastgelegd. En dat betekent dat dat ook van invloed is in latere jaren. Van hoe ze anderen gaan behandelen. En dat hebben we ook mogen zien. En wat nog meer, wat ik ook heel mooi, ik vond het allemaal heel mooi. Maar laten we van elkaar blijven leren. Leren van de voorbeelden van elkaar. En echt uitwisselen van ervaringen. Oké, that in a few sentences. And, but also a big round of applause for Karen, who actually... Karen, you were amazing. Oh, wow. It was so quiet. You can hear a speld horen vallen. Nou, dat kunnen jullie lekker zelf vertalen. Oké. Now I would like to welcome all the workshop leaders. The workshop leaders, will you come over on stage? From the first workshop. Okay, hello. Maybe you can say, oh, that's some money. Oh, for me? Oh, so that's not so much. Not so many. Okay, I want more. I can... Oh, wow. Hey, Dr. Hussein, son. Okay, what's your workshop about?
The workshop is about marketing. I run a 2-week training program in New York every summer for New York University and City University of New York. And the title of it is Marketing Communication for Behavioral Impact in Health and Social Development. And this is usually for a lot of UN colleagues, people from ministries of health and other ministries, and a lot of NGOs. And it takes 2 weeks. And this morning, I'm going to do it in 75 minutes.
Okay. So, yes, you can get an applause. Yes, and your name and what's your workshop about? Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clara Reyes. I will be presenting a workshop today called Art Heals. It's very experiential. So it's going to detail the journey of using art as a vehicle for healing. So it's very interdisciplinary, very experiential, and it was a program that was put in place 2 weeks immediately following after Hurricane Irma, where we touched over 400 young people. And so I'm going to be sharing some highlights of that and giving you a lot of activities that you can actually go home with today.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. She got applause, people. They are a little bit away. Hello, what's your name?
Yes, I am Olga Mussington Service. Today I will be presenting together with my colleagues at Student Support Service a workshop on Return to Happiness, a UNICEF program. It is an interactive psychosocial program that uses play therapy to help students who have undergone a traumatic event, which could be a natural, although there's no natural disasters, but natural hazards or man-made disaster.
Okay, thank you. And next to you is standing.
I'm Maya Verkuppenveld. I'm a public health nurse working in SEBA, and we give lessons on the schools. And one of the lessons is the Be Smart, just for the 10 until 12 years old children, about several addictions and to talk with them. And that's where my workshop is going over.
Okay, thank you. Hi.
Hello, good morning. I'm Firstly Kutar. I'm here from Bonaire, and today I will be giving a presentation on the Arai. The Arai is an instrument that was developed in the Netherlands. It's used to measure child safety or child endangerment, and also calculate the risk of future kindermishandeling. So I have a little bit of trouble. I have to translate certain things.
Oh, but you're doing it better than me, so it's
yes. So that will be the presentation for this morning.
Thank you. Yes, and during the break, you can choose one of the workshops. Even kijken. Oh yes, but everything will be okay because we are in the Caribbean. It's okay, she is preparing downstairs, so relax. Why are you acting so Dutch? Stop with that. I know we are the Dutch Caribbean and things like that, but we want to relax. Let it flow. Yes? Okay. She is my sister, so I can tell that to her. During the break, we can choose one of the workshops downstairs. You get the cards just like yesterday. We had Cassandra, our keynote speaker, and also some workshops. And I am wondering, yeah? Oh, I thought you want to say something. Oh, no, oh, okay. I'm wondering who has been to Return to Happiness, the workshop Return to Happiness. Yes? What are you going to use? Wat ga je gebruiken in your work? What are you going to use in?
Well, we have the kids at home at my work, so I think we're going to introduce it to the rest and let everybody use them to get the children back to their happiness, and the adults too.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. The adults too, because it's very important to connect with the childness in you. Can you get a round of applause for her? And the workshop strategic communication planning, and from who has followed that workshop? Can I see some? Okay, hey. Oh, you also follow this? Yeah, oh, but I come something. What's your name again?
My name is Jillian, I'm from Curaçao, and it was a wonderful workshop.
Ja, oh, oké, kort en krachtig. En wat heb je meegenomen? What are you going to, qua tip of
Well,
inzicht?
one of the key takeaways is always to conduct the research first. It's not something we don't know, right? But it was emphasized a lot with particular examples.
Yes.
So that was really helpful.
Okay, and who gave that workshop? I think
Everald.
Yes, Everald.
Yes.
Oh, Hussein. Yes. Can she get a round of applause? And then, Arai, Risk Taxation Tool. Arai. Wie is daar naartoe gegaan? Handen? I know. Nobody? I cannot imagine. You don't want the mic. You think, oh no, she is not coming here with the mic. Maar je mag het ook in het Nederlands doen, in het papiament, in elke taal. Dat is, want we zijn gewoon hier flexibel. Dus, yes? Oké, Arai. You are the only one over there? No. Okay, you can stand up and look in the audience. And yes, look in the audience and point at them. Because they are a little bit shy, so they need your power. Yeah, okay. Then we are going to the back. Thank you. Meredith. So you follow the workshop, Arai, yes, risk taxation tool. Can you tell us something about it?
Well, we do use the risicotaxatie we used to on a job. And it was very good to see that Bonaire is still using it. And I picked out something that we can continue on our job using the risicotaxatie.
Okay.
Yes. So it's it was very helpful.
Dus even voor de Nederlanders, dus jullie gebruiken het al, maar jullie hebben nu een soort van verdieping gekregen dat je denkt, hé, dit ga ik nu verder.
Ja.
Ja? Oké, wat mooi. En kan je ons misschien nog een tip meegeven voor de mensen die het nog niet gebruiken?
What it actually is for is actually it's not a tool that you would say, okay, this is what it is, but it's actually to give you an idea of where the problems are that you can synchronize and break down, okay, these are the possible problems that you can work on in your report or discuss with your colleagues. So it's give you a list of things that you can score on and then the discussion point to discuss with the colleagues.
Oké.
So
Thank you.
Yes.
Ja. Nou, dat heb je geweldig gedaan. Zomaar heb je je vinger niet opgestoken. Give her applause. Meredith, yes, please. And then the juvenile criminal law. And you know it, somebody's going to tell that you've been there. You are not the only one, I think. No, you can stand up and look in the audience. Because I don't know what happened with this. Yes. Oh, I think the man over there. Because they are not looking. They're like this. But okay. It's okay. You over there and also there. I'm going to ask you. Yes? Okay. What was your experience? Trucella, yes.
Trucella, yes.
Yes, Trucella.
It's not only about the punishment.
No.
It's about that the youth learn and to help the youth.
Ja.
Yes.
Ja.
That's what I think is very important.
Ja, ja, dus dat het niet alleen maar gestraft wordt, maar dat ze gewoon leren, ook om elkaar te helpen en ook de gedragsverandering. Ja. Want het verleden kan je niet veranderen, maar de toekomst wel. Door in het heden. Yes. Oké, en even kijken, dan gaan we nu naar Be Smart. Discussing addictions, maar dank u wel, dank u wel. Discussing addiction, ja, applaus inderdaad, ja. Be Smart, discussing addictions of children in the age of 10 and 12 years. I want to see your, no, not like this, but this. Yes, oh, okay. I thought you were in the other workshop because you weren't looking at me, but hello.
Hello.
What's your name?
I'm Johan.
Johan,
From
hi.
Seba.
Can you tell us something about the workshop that you follow?
Yeah, it was a very comprehensible workshop. Very nice to see material developed for the islands to talk about drug use, smoking, alcohol. Yeah, it really felt like a hands-on tool.
Yes? Okay, nice. And can you give us a tip, of kan je ons een tip of iets geven om dat te gaan gebruiken? Of,
well, yeah, I'd say use it. It was very interesting as well to start with this in primary school already.
Yeah.
And this tool, well, it says be smart. It exposes them, or it opens up the conversation mostly. And that, yeah, it works. And with the images that are island images, I think the kids can connect with it.
Ja, oh, wat mooi. Beautiful. Thank you, Johan. Yes, and then we have last but not least, if I say a boomba, what do the people who have followed the workshop say? A boomba. Oh, hello. We did it with much more power. A boomba. Okay, and now the other one thinks, okay, what's happening here? What's happening? Yeah, Renate? Yeah? Can I ask you, what is a boomba? Because that's the workshop Art
Dat is
Hills.
weer een hele goede vraag. Hè?
Ja.
Dat had ik goed moeten onthouden.
Eenheid, wij zijn één, toch? Ja, we zijn één. Ja, hoe was het?
Heerlijk. Ja, wat ik eigenlijk wil zeggen is het geeft niet alleen tools voor de kinderen om te zeggen van je moet in je eigen kracht staan en als je in je eigen kracht staat dan kan je met de ander samenwerken.
Dus not only tools for the children that they stand in their own power to connect with the other, but...
Maar zoals ik het zie als directeur zijnde, kan je het ook heel erg goed gebruiken voor je medewerkers op de werkvloer.
You can use it also for your colleagues on the work floor. No, dat kan echt niet. Ja, workfloor? Oké, workfloor.
Your English is good. Ik denk als de medewerkers op de werkvloer ook deze methodiek of die energy gaan gebruiken met elkaar, dat je ook betere hulp kan bieden aan de kinderen.
Ja.
Dus ik denk persoonlijk vanuit ons gezien, daar moeten wij gaan beginnen en dan kunnen we het overdragen, zodat we allemaal op dezelfde energielijn kunnen
Inderdaad. Because we got to start, hè, wat Clara ook zei, Claire, our workshop leader. We got to start to connect with ourselves and then we can connect with the other. Yes? Okay, a big round of applause for Renate. And it was amazing. If you can go to Art Hills, I can recommend it. You have to roll over the floor and things like that, but it doesn't matter. That's all good to come. Okay. Yes. Lose touch with their humanity. I work in a prison, and I'm going to put this, with high impact criminals. And when I speak to them, they tell me about their youth. And a lot of them has had a lot of traumatic things. Dus heel veel hebben trauma's meegemaakt, verschrikkelijke dingen. And I use art and theater to connect, that they can connect with themselves. And today I want to do a practice. Vandaag wil ik een oefening doen die we daar ook doen. En ik werk samen met Peter Faber. I work together with Peter Faber. Who knows him? Peter Faber? Yes, 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 yes. All the Dutch. Okay. And he is inspirational. He's 75 years old, and he is still working. And I was in prison, and I was working there, and I told him, I'm going to St. Martin. I was in prison, yes, also. Sometimes I go in prison like a vacation, and then I come through. So I'm out. Ik ben net vrij. And I told him, I'm going to St. Martin. And he was like, oh, you're going to give them a champion's passport? Een kampioenspaspoort? Ik zei, okay, if you want to. Yes, oh, are they going to do that over there? Oh, yes, because this is the Caribbean. Natuurlijk gaan ze dat doen, want dit zijn de Caribische broeders en zusters van mij. Dus, jullie krijgen nu een kampioenspaspoort uitgedeeld en dan ga ik uitleggen hoe we dat gaan gebruiken. En hij is levenslang geldig. For a lifetime. Is it? I have also for some Dutch people here, one in Dutch, but dat komt later. Okay. You get it from Elise and Marielle. Maybe you can give them a round of applause too. Yeah. And the name is Champions Passport because we are all champions. Yesterday we had a talk about the children are the future. But you know, you are so unique. There's one, you can take one away. Yeah, you have one? Everybody have one? Yes? Okay. A lifelong valid champion's passport, follow your wish. And then, if we look at the back, my body is a top company, day and night in action to fulfill my wish. Every wish starts with the mantra, I can, I want, I do it now. The red giant, my best friend, pumps always and everywhere. Buddy, I love you. Okay, I want to hear it now from you. If you could, I can, I want, I do it now. I can, I want, I do it now. Oh my God, people. You had a lunch, I know, but maybe we must stand because this is like, I can, I want, I do it now. Oh. Okay, everybody stand, please. Yeah. And then we are going to hold it like this. Yes, Job, yeah, Job, you can come, yes. Oh, yeah, Job, give him a round of applause, Job, yes. Job is my assistant today. So, son with the sunglasses. Okay, Job. Oh yeah, I know, but it doesn't matter. That's why. No, but we hear you. It's okay. No, because you like to say other things, but that we are going to discuss later. Job, this is Job. And Job, what is the mantra? And the good one, please.
The good
one. Yes.
I can. I want.
Yes.
I do it.
Now. Okay, so now we are going to do it. Kom Job, kijk, hij wil wegrennen. Oké. Oké. Komt-ie. Iedereen gaat meedoen. I can, I want, I do it now. Okay, because now I'm going to record it for Peter Faber. And then you have proof that you have a lot of energy here in St. Martin. So, you could tell me that my hair was like this. Okay. Job stays over here, eh? Yeah. Okay, komt-ie. Yes.
I can, I want, I do it now.
Another time.
I can, I want, I do it now.
Peter, this is especially for you with an awesome audience from St. Martin, and you get a big round of applause from us. Job, you are awesome also. Yes. Oh, are you going to dance for us now? Oh, thank you. Oh, kijk uit hoor, want ik heb geen EHBO, je weet toch? Je valt daar en ik stap over je en ik zeg sorry. Maar er zijn wel mensen met EHBO hier, toch? Yes, there are people who have, who can save people life. I also, even kijken hoor. After the workshop, I spoke to a special woman who has been through a lot of things, and I want to give you a rock. And this rock, het is een geslepen steen, omdat ik geloof dat we allemaal diamanten zijn. En jij gaat nu door een hele zware tijd en ik vind het te gek dat je hier bent. So, daarom geef ik het aan jou. Ja? Because you need the power. And you know, I am because you are. We must see each other. And sometimes, if somebody is in pain, it's good to listen. And sometimes that's enough to listen and pay attention. Okay, now I'm honored to introduce our keynote speaker. And she is an international specialist in the protection of children in humanitarian disasters, and a social worker by training. And I saw your CV and I thought, wow, that you are here to inspire us. That's a pleasure and an honor. Her name is Joanna Wedge, and she is going to talk about protecting children when disaster strikes, a global perspective. Can we give her a warm welcome, Joanna Wedge?
Thank you, thank you. I should give thanks to UNICEF, who has brought me here, in part for this conference, but also to do a workshop next week here in St. Martin that will be on child protection in emergencies. I was here on the island a year ago, doing an introduction really to protecting children when disaster strikes, and we're going to do a refresher and a simulation. So much appreciation for UNICEF for bringing me. And in particular, my host when I was here last time in this of the Court of Guardianship here. So Kimberly and her team have been so welcoming. So thank you very much to everybody for facilitating me being here. And a thank you to you for making the time to travel to St. Martin, to come together, to network, to exchange ideas, to be brave about admitting things that aren't going so well and listening to new ideas and thinking, how can I take this home to better protect its children in the places that I'm working and living. So I am going to need you individuals, because I do have the after lunch slot, and I know it can be a bit of a slump time. It can be the time where you might want to doze off a little bit or just have that feeling in your tummy of a full meal. Or maybe you're starting to realize of all those messages that are piling up at the office and you want to quickly check. But if I could get your focus and if I could get your insights over the next half hour, 45 minutes, it certainly would be beneficial to me and I think to others in the room. So please, I need you. This is what we're going to be talking about. I hope to speak for a limited time, though I do have a lot to cover, and then to hear a little bit of your questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts that have been provoked. So I've been asked to speak from the global perspective. As I mentioned, I was here in St. Martin last year. I went to Curaçao for a meeting of the directors of the Courts of Guardians as well in the fall, and I've been here a couple of other times on other islands. But I've been asked to present about the global perspective on protecting children when a crisis or a disaster occurs. So I will give us a little bit of context. I will look at the scope of what we mean by protection of children in emergencies when in a humanitarian setting. I will look at the challenges that we face to protect children, and some of them that are self-inflicted, I think, that we ourselves could be doing better. And then I will try and answer those challenges in the pathways that we have going forward. And then, as I say, hopefully we'll still have some time for discussion. I should stress that I'm here as an independent consultant. I don't represent UNICEF. Some of the things I'm going to say may be a little controversial. I hope they will be thought-provoking, because I think we are really at a point where we need to be taking on new ideas and pushing ourselves to do some things when it comes to disaster preparedness differently. So the first thing that might be a little controversial, the topic of the conference is Our Children, Our Future. The future that we're handing our children is not a particularly bright one. We know the disaster. We know of Hurricane Irma here in the region such a short time ago. But we can look around the world and see long-term erosion of our climate. And we can see short, very harsh impacts of our climate crisis. So what are we looking at? We are looking at what I now can term a climate crisis, no longer climate change, but actual places around the world, if not over our entire planet, of climate crisis. We see weather that is extreme, such as Hurricane Irma. We see torrential rain that comes down in a very small patch of earth, of one island, part of a country, whereas the rest of the country may be suffering a drought. Yeah? So we have drought in places. We have, in my country of Canada, places where we have extreme cold at a very late time of year, which means that the animals and the plants cannot thrive. We see the reverse, where we have extreme heat waves, where those who are vulnerable, whether they be our youngest children, those who are ill, those who are elderly, are suffering and even dying. So we have extreme weather. It is unpredictable. As I mentioned, those cold snaps that are happening late into April or May in the Northern Hemisphere, which should not be happening at that time. You have heat waves that go in my city of Toronto into October, which is unheard of 50, 100 years ago. So we have an unpredictability, which of course impacts on planting and harvesting and the food that we rely on. And then they're increasing. So the frequency with which these extreme measures are happening is not once in 100 years. I had the good fortune of buying a house in my city. 5 days after we bought it and moved in, the basement flooded because of storm in a century. Well, I'm not so sure that it'll be 100 years before that basement floods again. It is happening on a much more frequent basis. Impact tied into that, we're having food shortages in parts of the world. And linked to that, where prices shoot up, and so people are having great difficulty in feeding their families and feeding themselves. We have infectious disease outbreaks. Obviously, one of the large ones that we consider in the humanitarian sector at the moment is that of Ebola, but it's certainly not the only one, whether it be cholera and so on. We have many kinds of diseases that are rearing their heads, that are spreading, that are more difficult to control because of the climate, because of globalization and travel and so on. So this is new ways of working, new challenges we are facing, new ways that we have to work. We have the instability of the geopolitical system that we have worked in as humanitarians, as human rights activists, as child rights workers. Yeah, there is a shift going on in the region, in the Americas, in Europe, in Africa, that we are seeing these changes. And that makes it a different context in which emergencies arise and in which we are expected to respond to disaster and protection of children. Then we continue to have many armed conflicts, and those armed conflicts drag on and on and on. So the average length of an armed conflict now is not 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 months, but 8 years, which, as you can imagine, for a child is more or less half of their life, half of their childhood might be spent under fear of bombardment or snipers or having your papa taken away or whatever it is. And then related to all of these, we see the mass migration. We see people on the move. We see single men on the move, families on the move, children on the move, mothers with their children on the move. So we see large-scale movement of people, voluntary, involuntary, forced. Sometimes the line is blurred. When your family is starving, you move. Is that voluntary or is that forced? It certainly is, no one takes a decision to leave their home lightly. So this is a context in which we're looking at protecting children in our world. So just very quickly, I wanted to talk about some of the impacts or just flag some of the impacts. We, I believe, at a global level, are seeing a damage to or an erosion of our socioeconomic resilience, especially if a disaster happens repeatedly in an area. So if there is a conflict and 5 years after the conflict is resolved, there is a drought or there is a hurricane, you can imagine that it is difficult to recover and stand up again and to trust each other and to share resources and so on. There is a diminished realization of human rights, including child rights. We are making progress in some areas, and I don't want to be completely negative and completely down. But at the same time, we can see that there is some, because partly of that geopolitical change, there is a pullback on the fulfillment of refugee rights, on child rights, on women's rights, and so on. And there is pressure on humanitarian space. So the ability for someone to come into a space and operate neutrally, impartially, know that you can go towards someone and say, what do you need at the moment? We can help you meet your food need, your clean water need, and so on. There is pressure from military, there's pressure from governments, there's pressure from different sources that shrinks that and makes it less safe to operate, makes it more difficult at times to operate. And related to all of this, and what we will discuss now, is that there are increased protection risks. So as people move, as they leave their homes and their structures that they know, they are exposed to, yes, hopefully safety, but also dangers and risks as they make that kind of travel. Or if they decide to stay and try and eke it out where they are. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to talk to the next person and come up with an estimate of the percentage of children you think, globally, live in a country that is currently affected by conflict or disaster. I won't say natural because much of it is our involvement in that risk. So what percentage of children are living in a conflict or disaster-affected country right now? Okay, who here estimates 10% of the global children's population? Who here thinks 10? No? Who here thinks 20? 20% of children. Who here thinks 30? 30, couple of pairs. Who here thinks 40? Okay, so a bigger grouping around 40. Who here thinks 50? Number of people too. Others thought higher than 50%? Okay. Wow. How high did anyone go? 60? Higher than 60? 70? Higher than 70? 80? Okay, here I was thinking I was coming with all the doom and the gloom and everything is bad. I'm very happy, I think. I'm not happy, but UNICEF estimates is 1/4 of children, 25% of children, are living in a country currently affected by disaster or conflict. Oh, okay. Nevertheless, if you have 4 children, that would mean 1, yeah? If you're teaching a class of 30, yeah, that would mean 7 or 8, yeah? Children are living under the effects of a disaster of some sort. 50 million children right now are displaced from where they consider to be their home. So they are not growing up where they feel known, comfortable. There's a little bit of uncertainty in all of us when we move away. And these are children, so obviously they've been taken away by family or been told go because there's something not safe about where we are living. So, over 300,000 children are currently registered as unaccompanied or separated, and I think for this audience, you know what that means. We have talked already about psychosocial impacts, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we know from some of the keynote that was done this morning, some of the long-term effects that can befall children, for example, around PTSD, anxiety, and so on. We talked already a little bit about the breakdown of community cohesion, about being able to rely on each other, rely on family, and so on. And when a system is under pressure, even if the system is the family, there is degradation, there is stress, there is pressure, and there's breaking points. We find it even in the best of times to reach the most vulnerable, yeah? To identify who those are, to make sure that they know what services are available, to change our service in a way that we deliver in order to really help them meet their needs and so on. So in a disaster setting, in a humanitarian setting, we have even greater difficulty with such large numbers as well of actually identifying and meeting the most vulnerable where they're at. Impact of children of the current humanitarian framework is that increasingly with war on terror, with the idea, the mindset of some of our leaders that there being a war on terror, of there being a terrorist around every corner, of doubting, of suspicion, of blame, then even children get sucked into that. And so children in conflict zones are seen as possible fighters, as potentially a terrorist or a terrorist in training or awaiting, and they become targets, maybe not of actual torture or assassination or so on, but of suspicion, of having their mobility, of having their opportunities reduced and constrained so that they don't become a problem later on for whatever power that be. And then we have the difficulty of measuring impact. So we know that we struggle at times to measure the impacts of the work we do to protect children in our ongoing systems, but we place that then under a system under even greater stress of a disaster or a conflict, and we struggle to actually show how is it that we are making progress in protecting children from sexual violence, from psychological harm, from child labor, from trafficking, and so on. So these are real things that we grapple with. So, before I dive too deep into more of the lecture, I wanted to just take a moment to talk about, or to refine for ourselves, why we focus, why do we shine a light on protecting children in an emergency setting? Because I think I was in the communications workshop, and I really wish I'd taken it before I prepared the speech, but that's another thing. But I was in the workshop, and we were discussing in great length around how we really have to be very clear about our messaging, very clear about our objective. And I think that is something we sometimes lack in child protection, and especially when we get into humanitarian settings. So why do we shine a light on the protection of girls and boys from violence, abuse, and exploitation? Well, it's because pre-existing problems, time, research, and so on has shown that pre-existing problems that we were having in a society tend to get worse when a disaster hits. So if there was trafficking in your community, that will possibly go up. Yeah? If there was a problem with anxiety amongst your teenagers, the damage of the shock and so on will likely increase those rates of anxiety for that population. So pre-existing problems rise. New risks emerge. So perhaps there wasn't issues of trafficking. Perhaps there weren't issues of child labor and the worst forms of child labor in your community. But because of the erosion of, or the collapse of livelihoods, of economy and so on for weeks or months, then we see that children are forced into the workforce, and not in some easy job, but in the job of picking up litter on busy highways or digging in mines or whatever the possible jobs are for children of that age. So we'll see new risks emerge, maybe immediately, maybe a little bit later, which is something we'll come to. And then the usual protective mechanisms that we have for children, for families, are eroded or damaged. And that might be informal mechanisms like the neighbor next door who looks out to see the children are coming home nicely from school, or the uncle who gets involved when he knows that his nephew's been drinking a lot for a week or two and comes and checks out on the family and makes sure that things are, okay and nobody's suffering. So maybe that uncle has died or moved away or so on and isn't there. But it could also be the formal mechanisms. So it could be if you have a social protection system that does money transfers, maybe the banking system has collapsed and the family has to use its limited savings or has to ask for help or has to get favors from other people, some of those people who are expecting things back from the women, the children of that family in particular. Yeah. So this is why we shine a light on protecting children in boys and girls in humanitarian settings. Globally, we look at a number of different topics, and I'll run through them very quickly. Dangers and injuries. So we started looking at this topic in conflict settings, thinking landmines and bombs and things like this. And then we took it to natural, man-made disasters, and obviously realized, with overlap on public health, that there's a lot of dangers that children face, and a lot of injuries that can be prevented. And a lot of those occur because parents aren't properly supervising their children, given the new dangers that lie around them, whether that's water, broken glass, collapsed buildings, and so on. So there's a role for child protection actors in preventing and responding to dangers and injuries. Physical violence, which is, I don't think, something I need to go into any great length on here. There's not very much hard data, but there is some that show us that children, well, two things. One, that the rate of physical violence against children by people known to them increases after a natural disaster. So this was, I don't have the statistics for you to the tip of my tongue, but it was information that was captured by the helpline in Christchurch, New Zealand after their earthquake. So they had a good baseline of what the child abuse rate was, and 6 months later they saw 15%, maybe, but don't quote, increase in child abuse cases after the earthquake. So the stress on the family, the stress on the caregivers, the lack of coping mechanisms that they had, whether they're financial, emotional, time, meant that there were more cases of abuse being reported. And the second piece I wanted to mention, which I know you know, but I just want to stress, is that children have a very different perspective on physical violence than adults. And so we're encouraged in emergency settings to make sure that we're talking to children about what physical violence they're seeing or experiencing. Because often, as we know, adults brush it over or don't think it's a big deal, where in fact the children will tell you that it hurts them physically, but it also hurts them emotionally and psychologically to receive it or to witness it and so on. Sexual violence, exploitation, harassment, etc. Psychosocial distress, and mental disorders, which again we work on with our health colleagues, both public health and mental health colleagues. Children associated with armed forces and armed groups. Obviously, this started as being an intervention that we would do in conflict settings, but increasingly we're seeing that there's interventions to be done in other settings where maybe there was gang issues beforehand, or if a disaster is protracted and the economy has collapsed, gangs become an issue which a community has to deal with. The issue of child labor, so we look at the worst forms of child labor. Again, when a family's economic outlook has plummeted and children are put into the workforce, whether it be as domestic workers, whether it be working in the mines, whether it be working as, taking money, begging or selling small things on the streets and so on. Unaccompanied and separated children, which we've mentioned already. And then the final topic that we consider under our big umbrella is that of justice for children. So looking at when children come into conflict with the law in an emergency setting, maybe it's because of looting, which obviously was an issue here in St. Martin, whether it be a curfew that's been imposed and they get picked up, whether it be because they are committing petty theft in order to try and get food or so on. So this is another of the areas that we look at. All right. There are a number of challenges that we're facing when an emergency strikes and what we're seeing as themes across the various settings. One of them is around funding. So yes, we tend to be underfunded as a sector in regular workaday world. When we look at the humanitarian funding, child protection gets 32% of what it asks for. So I don't know how that measures up next to any of the islands or the Netherlands overall. But when we make requests to donors about projects and specific work that we can do to tackle these areas that I just mentioned, approximately 32% of them get funded and the rest don't. This is not improved over time, so we're really flummoxed about what it is that we need to do to raise the voice of children and ensure that their protection is better served, financially at least. Obviously, not all things are resolved by funding. We're not going to expect to get 100%, but it would be nice to be at least at the level of the overall humanitarian average, or the other areas of protection, such as gender-based violence or landmines and so on, which is more at the 45% mark. So, another challenge we have is impact. I don't think I have time to tell a story that I wanted to, but it was of a little girl that I met who is from Myanmar or Burma. She was very young, about 6 years old, in school, when the cyclone Nargis hit, and that was similar to Irma, had as much damage but high mortality. We're talking tens and tens of thousands of people died in Myanmar alone, and it hit some of the other countries in the region. She received no particular services. I think there was some humanitarian intervention around food or water, in her area, but nothing targeted towards protection. She, however, dropped out of school about 6 months later. The schools went back, but she stopped going. She ended up working in a little shop, cafe thing. Some women invited her to go to the big city where she would be able to get cash as opposed to just food and board. And so she left her town. She went to the big city. There she was working in a bar that had alcohol and so on. And she did indeed have her first sexual encounter there at age of 11. Yeah. She was trafficked on from there across the border into Thailand and ended up in Bangkok, which is where she came to the attention of Child Protection Services, partly because the parlor where she was working had a number of infractions, but partly kind of from luck that a head teacher was of that area, did more than just teach, yeah? Tried to do some outreach and observation in community and realized that there's something in particular was going on in that parlor. And so there was a swoop, and she was picked up in the swoop. Unfortunately, she was 14, obviously had suffered economic labor, had been separated from her family, had suffered a great amount of sexual violence, and was HIV positive. And she died 3 years later, still as a child. So the delayed impact, the emergency happened, her life changed, the system wasn't strong enough to help her, to even identify that she'd gone missing and to intervene. So sometimes the protection issue we will see immediately, a child is separated from their family. Sometimes we don't even see that for weeks or months. But sometimes we can see it immediately. We see a child that's recruited into an armed group and so on. But often in child protection, it is a delayed impact that we don't actually see the negative until 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later. And that could be around sexual violence, could be around physical violence in the home, it could be about child labor, it could be about psychological needs. Yeah? And yet the emergency response system is often set up, and we provide shelter, we provide water, we provide medicine, we provide food, and then 3 weeks later, 3 months later, boom, it shuts down. And the bridging, especially for protection and for children in need of protection, has a much longer timeline. And that's something we really need to address. And I think it's something, based on my discussions in the region, is something we need to think through carefully here. Challenge, to listen and learn from children. Obviously not a challenge only in emergency settings. In emergency settings, we're even tighter for time. But I really think we have to keep challenging ourselves in our regular work and in a disaster setting to create the systems or strengthen the systems where children can truly tell us what they think about what's going on around them, what their fears are, what their hopes are, what their concerns are, what they're seeing about other children, and finding ways to feed that back into our programming. Yeah. The next one, we are absent. Richelda talked yesterday about asking for a child. Well, we are often absent at the tables where that asking needs to happen. Yeah? So there are disaster management structures, and there might be one box for vulnerable people. Yeah? And that box, doesn't really report to anyone, or doesn't get much funding, or isn't given access to cars, or whatever it may be. Yeah? So often, we fall under that category. We're only one under disabilities and elderly and so on. But we're not really at the table. We might be, behind the table, but we're not really at the table. And we need to find out ways that we can bring our voice forward with the key messages that we have, the key demands we have for money, for human resources, for supplies, and so on, to make sure that we are indeed able immediately an emergency happens to contribute and to bring up the profile of children and their protection needs. Yeah. And this is worldwide I'm talking about. It's an issue everywhere we go. A challenge, pivoting our workforce. So if we look at the social services workforce, who are we? Well, we're quite process-oriented, yes? And understandably, this is a strength of ours, that we see change, we work on behavioral change, we work on attitudes, we work on systems. But in a disaster, those things are not thrown out the window, but it's all tightened, serré, brief. And things happen very quickly. We need to make decisions. We need to make good enough decisions in 12 hours, in 36 hours, and not go through long processes, unfortunately, that will last 3 weeks or 2 months or so on. So we need to find foster care. We need to have something in place that allows for evacuation of children. We need to be able to release money in order to deploy staff and so on. Part of our workforce, we need to stress that we have to work differently in an emergency, and that can be difficult for those of us who are process-oriented. And it's not for everyone to be on an emergency roster and so on. We are caregivers ourselves. Most of us, by very nature, our role in our family, our role in our community, our churches, and so on, is that we're caring for others. And so when a disaster strikes, people look for you in your family network, but professionally, you now have to focus on the 110 children that are on your caseload, yeah? The 200 children that you need to identify over the next 2 weeks that you don't even know about yet. So this is a real practical issue. And we need to be increasing our skills. So those advocacy skills about getting to the table, the listening skills, and so on, about thinking about the ways of working around separation, around family violence, and so on. So we need to be preparing for that in the future. Next challenge. We are cross-sectoral. There is no child protection ministry, yes? So we work as here in the room, and it's a strength as well as a challenge. I don't want to minimize that. But we, at the global level, we work with defense, we work with interior ministry, we work with foreign affairs, women's affairs, women and families sometimes, education, finance, health, justice. Yeah, so this can be a strength, but often, especially in an emergency, people go into their silo, I need to deliver this, and it can be difficult to get the full collaboration that we want. We also need to have many partnerships in child protection, not only in terms of ministries, but working with other humanitarian sectors, those who are managing the camps and the transport and so on, pulling in our faith-based groups, the civil society, whether it's children's groups, adolescent groups, youth groups, and so on, as well as the human rights activists. So I don't want to leave you only with challenges. I want to give you a little stimuli about the pathways we have to go forward. So we have, over the last 7 or 8 years, articulated principles. So the ones in the middle you will know from the UNCRC, the development and survival, participation, best interests, and non-discrimination. The ones around the outside are newer humanitarian principles, and we're going to take a quick look at them. The first one is avoid exposing people to further harm as a result of your actions. What doctors call do no harm. Yeah, the medical profession says do no harm. By doing an intervention, make sure you're not causing more harm. The next one is around ensuring people's access to impartial assistance. So this is a common humanitarian principle, but what does it mean for children? Yeah? So assistance is provided without discrimination, including discrimination based on age, and is not withheld from children in need or their families and caregivers. The next common principle is about protecting people from physical and psychological harm that comes from violence and coercion. So children are protected from violence, from being forced or induced to act against their will, and from fear of such abuse, from us, from military actors, and so on. Principle 4 is helping people, children, claim their rights, access available remedies, and recover from the effects of abuse, so that we put in place programs that actually respond to what children and their families are telling us that they need. The 5th one is strengthening child protection systems. And so that in the emergency phase, we're looking at what are the strengths of the existing system and we're building upon them. And we're trying to make sure that after the emergency phase is considered over, that there is indeed a stronger system that can go forward for the coming months and years, as well as be more resilient if there is another shock, another disaster, and so on. And then the final one is about individual resilience, so building the child's resilience in the humanitarian phase. So children are often portrayed as passive recipients of aid, whether it's food or so on, but in fact we know that they're tremendously active and that we don't tap this enough. And in fact, how can we be building on that in the ways that we operate? The second pathway forward is around common standards. 7 years ago, the global community developed the Child Protection Minimum Standards Handbook. We do have copies for each of the islands and for Holland, and we're thinking of giving them to the representative on the task force to take home and see how they can be distributed, because there's not one for everybody in the room. So these minimum standards for child protection in emergencies, they establish the common principles. They aim to improve quality of programming, accountability to children, families, communities. They provide a synthesis of good practice in each of those domains that I talked about, child labor, sexual violence, and so on, and help us better advocate on behalf of children and communicate on behalf of the needs that they have demonstrated. So the standards have background information. They have the standard itself, which is just one sentence. They suggest key actions. They provide guidance notes. And they also have indicators of how can you measure whether or not you're in the emergency phase improving on what you're delivering. So who are they for? All of us who are working directly with children in an emergency setting. For governments, for those of you who are on that side of the table, for multilateral organizations, for donors, and so on. They're particularly were done in consultation with justice actors, security forces, armed groups, and so on. So anyone really who interacts with children can pick them up. They're contextualized. They've been rolled out in over 50 countries, and really there is a movement to adapt them to your country. There are 26 standards. You may only pick up 6 of them, but make them, use them to make sure that your local standards are as strong as possible. And, as with everything, there's an app. So if you don't get a hold of the book, you can go and look for Child Protection Minimum Standards app, and you'll find it and be able to download it. The next pathway is around partnerships and alliances. So be at that disaster management table. We need to be part of that structure. We need to be a partner in that effort to manage the disaster in terms of preparedness and response. We need to have our own child protection coordination mechanisms. So is there a task force, a group that comes together every month, every quarter, where all the child protection actors get together? Yeah? Does it have a way of working if a disaster strikes? Yeah? These are questions that we need to be thinking about. We can do joint trainings, not only between islands, but also between sectors. So we do indeed have our education, our public health, our physical health people come together with those who are dealing more directly with child protection to look at common ways of working in a disaster. We need to have someone, and it often will fall to us, check out or vet any new actors who come on the scene during a humanitarian disaster. There will be people popping up all over the place. There were on St. Martin and then obviously in other larger disasters, whether it's people coming over from the States or wherever, in this day and age with planes, as well as local population who just throw up a tent and say, we're here to help. We need to make sure that they are indeed here to help and understand how they must interact with children in order to keep them safe. And then we need to look at integrating with other humanitarian efforts. And I've just put down 2. Some of you were in the Safe Schools workshops yesterday, and that's one clear example. Another one is linking nutrition and psychosocial support. And there's a lot of evidence around, or growing body of evidence, around having a psychosocial support worker actually in the nutrition tent, actually helps identify mothers who are in distress, who are not bonding well with the baby, and issues that might grow and grow over the coming weeks and months. And finally, I just wanted to touch on preparedness, because if we think the second line under our conference topic is ready, set, protect. And I question, are we ready? Yes? We're up for the challenge, but are we ready? Do we have things like protocols? Who does what, where, when, with what money when it comes to protecting children if a disaster happened? I was very fortunate to work with the Courts of Guardians on an evacuation protocol. So there is a draft inter-island evacuation protocol that has been worked through for this setting. Shelter. Many of you throw up shelters, open shelters for a brief period of time when a disaster happens. Sometimes these can become very large depending on the disaster. Do we have protocols for who accesses a shelter, what workers are there, what oversight is there, and so on? Staff responsibilities for ourselves as child protection workers. Do we know what our responsibility is when a disaster happens? Do we get deployed beyond our home area to another island or another part of our own country and so on? What training do we need? We've had the child protection training here in St. Martin, but are there online trainings or face-to-face trainings that would help you be more ready in your team? Plan those trainings and do actual planning exercises with other sectors so that you can really know what will happen and who you can rely on. And then agree to put child protection risks into the initial humanitarian assessment. Usually the disaster management team will go out after 1 day or 2 days and find out how many buildings have been destroyed, how many people killed, injured, what illness is out there, and so on and so forth. But they rarely, if ever, actually ask about children's concerns. And they rarely, if ever, ask about protection. How many children are being separated? Do you see children wandering around alone? What are the dangers and injuries in this vicinity? How are parents caring for their children in the coming days? So are there ways that we can plan and prepare to have those questions already approved so those can be part of the assessment? Family preparedness. So increasingly this is important to our approach at the global level, working with fathers, mothers, siblings of the direct child, extended family, helping people be aware that they should have a plan for an emergency, talking about with their children beforehand, thinking about what they as parents should be doing if a hurricane strikes, if there's going to be an ice storm in my country. What do you do with the child in that day or in that 12 hours or so on? Explain things to children, and I think we had that conversation yesterday in Rochelda's presentation, and encourage children to be expressing their own questions, their own concerns, and then building up parents' coping skills. And we had one great presentation on Best Dad Ever yesterday as one example. And then finally, but certainly not least, children's own preparation. So formal, in the safe schools, we can look at a curriculum in the education ministry that builds on individual resilience, that does disaster risk reduction education, and so on. We look at communicating with children, about messages with children. I noticed there was an article in the local press here welcoming the workshop next week, welcoming the disaster management drill that is going to happen, and a reminder to the general population to, if an emergency happens, to rely on the information that comes from government. The messages that come out from government is a good source of a reliable source of information, which I wholeheartedly agree with. But that information needs to be written not only for adults, but for teenagers and for under 10s. We need to be messaging properly with children. And then just one example of the informal, about helping children speak about the risks they see and prepare together for what they'd do if they were at school, or if they were at church, or if they were by themselves playing, and so on. So just before I go, I wanted to leave you with some resources. I'll leave them up on the screen. Because hopefully, this is the global perspective, but there are some key resources, videos, webinars, things like that you might be interested in taking. There is an e-course that's available on the minimum standards. Each of those areas that I spoke about has a technical video on it. So if you're interested in child labor, trafficking, things like that, you'll find a related video. If you go to the Alliance for Child Protection in Humanitarian Action, or if you Google CPMS videos, you'll find them there. I didn't have a chance to talk about keeping children safe except when I mentioned vetting of other agencies or other actors. But obviously, the code of conduct that we all work under has to be very strong. And if you're particularly interested in preventing sexual exploitation and abuse of children and other vulnerable populations, then I would really recommend you go to a resource like Keeping Children Safe. And then up at the top is our partnership amongst the different humanitarian actors. And that's where you'll find the app, for example. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have I left any time?
Yes. Yeah? Because it was really interesting. Last but not least, je kan verschillende video's vinden, webinars, gaat zo maar door. Om jezelf ook te blijven ontwikkelen, want dat is heel erg belangrijk. Krijgt ze nog een daverend applaus van ons, Joanna Wedge. Working on their action plans of 2019. Oh, we got to pay attention. Yes, thank you. And today I want to welcome the Director of Department of Social Affairs, Mrs. Glenda Hernandez from Aruba. Can she get a big warm applause of us? Yes.
Crisisplan Sociaal is ontstaan in 2017. Toen waren 2 kleine kinderen overleden. Kregen we de opdracht om een crisisplan te maken. Dus ik kreeg ongeveer een maand. English. Okay. That will go a little bit slower because my English is a little bit rusty. Okay? We had 2 child cases on child abuse where there was 2 deaths of 2 children, and we had to make a crisis plan. There was the community was very mad at the politicians, firstly, mostly, and that means that the Minister of Social Affairs called upon us, and he said, make a plan. What do you need so in order that to prevent this in the future? So we made a plan. We can go with the next one. What's the aim is? The aim is to put a child protective system in place in Aruba, and the second aim is to work on different social achterstanden. Yes, deficits in order to prevent crisis in the future. So that was the aim of the plan. The plan is long-term, although we have financing for 3 years, but I am already thinking about after those 3 years, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? So I'm working on that already. And it combines 4 sectors. So we have the judicial system, the social system, education, and health. It's also designed to bring make prevention in early situations. So don't escalate, but try to do it as soon as you detect a certain achterstand. The next one. now I'm in the phase after we have about 31 projects. Now we're in the phase of redirecting all the efforts around 5 themes. First one is violence against children and youngsters, crisis in the family, what to do with that, early prevention at school, and we're starting right now at 6 schools. We have, what we have known in different social analysis is that 4 of 10 children doesn't get a high school diploma, and about 23% doesn't have a job. That means if you miss that part, you miss it for life. So that means also a crisis in the future. So it also means you have to look also at all those aspects. It's not just there is a crisis, some children of some child is being molested, what are you going to do with it? You have to see also long term. We have also the problem of alcohol and drugs. It's a big problem in Aruba. And you have children in the early stages, it's the right time to intervene and to say, okay, what are we going to do? How big is the problem and what are we going to do with that? So it's not as easy as you think it is. We have a problem to solve socially. There has been about, since 1990, the population has doubled, but the social services has remained the same. To further make it more complicated, it has been 40% reduced. So, and we have doubled the population with immigrants. We didn't say, okay, what kind of screening did you have? Non-screening. We have immigrants living from lower classes and bringing all the social problems. So we're dealing with that now. Yeah. I first begin with this. But I'm turning now to, like I said before, processes and all kind of measures around teams. Because now it's time to bring all the partners around certain teams. We're starting with a school approach at SCOA. That's a process we are starting. Next week, we're starting with the meldcode. We're searching for a vertrouwensarts. And we're getting all the sectors around the table. So now we have round tables. And that's a way of working. We have already Veiligheidshuis who's already doing that. So, and it's working very fine. And that means you have to make certain agreements and the parties will work on those issues. No, this is what I begin with, but like I said, I'm going new with processes. Okay, the next one. This is one of the media campaign we started this year. Like you see, we have about several heart abuse, 24 cases a month, and that's really a shock for a lot of people. And the most shock you get, they got, and mad they got when these children begin to have a face. The child in Hooiberg has been abused and is led to the hospital. Is that child, not with a name, but they said she was she was bleeding, and that the crowd got really mad. And at that moment, you start to see cases with getting a face. In other times, we said there is about a case of 7-8 child abuse cases per week. And on what they said, okay, so what? But now it's getting to get a face, and the crowd is starting to get mad. And I think it's a positive sign, because the basis for change is getting mad, the first phase. So, okay, the second. what is the strength of the plan? The strength of the plan is that it's centered around certain risk in the total, in every stage of life of a child, from a baby to a young adult. So we tackle violence, etc. We're going to tackle all kinds of processes in the life of a child. We have also that view that for every phase of a child, we take all the risk and we take the protective factors and we see what can we do in order to tackle the problem, but also to give a child as much protection as possible. So that is the view. And we also think of second chances. If a child gets out of the system, what can we do to put her back in the system? And that's a total other view than, for instance, if a child, there is about in Aruba 25 in prison, and it is 12, 13 years, get out of prison and does the same. And we say, no, we don't want that. We want a life coach project, and we're starting a life coach project in order to coach the youngsters not to get back in the old life. Here are some projects we are doing, but like I said, the projects are centered around processes. And I have, like I said, mentioned 5 processes. If there is an acute danger situation, we're now getting so far that the hospital is working with us and all the other sectors. And we had Meldcode is the first project, the school aanpak hebben we. We're starting also with maatschappelijk werk and with the police in the barrios. Dus it's starting. It's getting form. And we have also a monitoring review made, the first one in which it was like the session we had right now with Mr. Hussein, and that we asked the question, what is your target? What can we see? What are, like they said, smart, eh? What kind of behavioral change do we see after a certain program? And so we did that with 32 projects in a graph. So we're doing now the second monitoring review, will appear end of June, and will go to Parliament because it is a lot of money which is involved, about 34 million florins, and that is a lot of money. So we have to review things and verantwoord. Huh? Okay. Next one. Here we're saying that about 80% of all the cases of abuse is done by somebody in the family or in the friend circle. A lot of people don't know this, but this is really known. The second, what are our biggest concerns? How do we, like I said, what do I do after 3 years? After the money is done and gone, what do we do? Yeah? And that is now my big concern. Like I said, the 24-hour meldpunt, and that is about, now we have a little meldpunt, but we want to make it professional, we want to make it big and 24-hour with psychologists, etc. So we have to work on that. And what like we need is not, we need also professionalization of, we have services which handles with violence in all kinds of forms, but we want to make it professional, more professional, more with all kinds of services to integrate the people in the society. And with that, we're working now with Stichting Vier in Holland. And our partners are also UNICEF. And Eugeo is stepping now on board voor de meldcode. Like I said, the drug problem is a big problem in Aruba. For a long time, we don't even know how big is the group. So there is now research being done. How big is this group? What is the age of the group? What can we do about that so that we can take measures? We have a lot of youngsters just walking around, and I'm trying to see how I have already a plan on how we can take care of this problem. And it is very expensive because I think youngsters, they need a second chance. If somebody is way behind in drugs and alcohol, you have to do something like a Hazelden program, I think, for example, in order to shape the youngster so that it can go back in society. So everything is aimed at going back into society and taking part of it. That is what I'm doing right now. We are in the second year. It started, it's in, the funds are in, not in the part of the begroting, but it's in a part fund. I do all the, with a group, I do all the sollicitatiegesprekken. We do all the assignments and putting the personnel in place for all the sectors. It's a lot of work because I have also a Department of Social Affairs. But I have survived till now. Yeah. And right now we're thinking we want a professional opvang for people who have encountered violence in any kind of way. So that is now our plan, what we're doing, and we're trying to get it up the ground, yes. Yes, that's in a nutshell what we're doing. It's a lot of work. The reviews, the reporting is very severe. Right now we're dealing with indicatoren, and that is what we are doing now for end June for the parliament. Yeah, that's it.
Another applause, please. Yes. Thank you. Ready, set, protect. Yes. The bracelet that we've got. Yeah, do you have it? Yes, the bracelet? Yes. Ready, set, protect. During the short break, Suchin Robbins, she comes to me and she gave me a compliment. No, 2 compliments. And I was like, oh, thank you. And I think that it's very important that we give each other more compliment, because the work that we are doing is tough. Het is niet altijd makkelijk. Dus dan is het fijn als je een compliment van elkaar kan krijgen. Dus zullen we nu in de vorm van een applaus voor elkaar dus complimenteren door een applaus? Ja, super. En laat het binnenkomen, hè? Het is allemaal voor jou, ja. At the start, the first day of the conference, we had an exercise, what you want to gain and what you want to contribute. I picked 3 post-its with what you want to gain, and then I come at you. The first one, knowledge about how they work in other countries, insights in the rights of the children, meldcode on Sint Maarten. Samantha Krane. Are you here? Yes, Samantha. I'm coming your way. Oh, you're looking at me like, no, not coming my way, please. Yes, I'm coming your way, Samantha, because you're... can I... yes. Oh, I have... So, yeah, thank you. Hi. Hi. Is het gelukt? Did you gain...
Ja, nou, ik ben voornamelijk de meldcode. Daar ben ik wel wat meer te weten over gekomen.
About the telephone for children.
Ja,
toch?
ja, maar ook
ja.
gewoon en ook de meldcode zelf.
Mhm.
Hoe die in elkaar zit, hoe die is opgericht. De workshop vond ik heel interessant.
Mhm.
Ja, ik vond het over het algemeen vond ik het echt 2 leuke dagen.
Yeah?
Dus, ja.
You enjoyed?
Yes, I
Oh,
did. I did.
en je shined helemaal. Leuk, leuk. Can she get a big round of applause? Dankjewel, Samantha. Thanks. Thank you. En dan informatie om mijn werk beter te doen voor de kinderen. Gregory Lacruz. Gregory Lacruz? Oh, over there. Yes, I... Oh, you have fans? Some fans, Gregory. Hi. From which island are you?
From Seba. I work the community officer, politie barrio, wijkagent.
Oh! And did you get information to do your work better with the children?
Yes, I did.
Oh, wait a moment, Gregory, because they are so enthusiastic because you're so famous. Yes, okay. Yeah.
Don't think
Okay.
so. Ja, ik heb mijn, de 2 dagen was intensief.
Oh, English. Oh. Do you want to do it in English? Oh, you can do
I'm gonna
both.
try it.
Yeah, both language. Then I don't have to
it
translate.
was good. A lot of information, especially yesterday with the gaming, because if you see, especially in Seba, the way how the young children is at the moment, all the way how they think,
Yeah.
the way how they talk to each other,
Mhm.
and especially the codes that they use.
Yes.
And so I know for sure now when we go to the school, talk to them, which topic we have to talk with them.
Ja, dus waar jullie het over moeten hebben.
Ja.
En ook wat voor vragen je moet stellen om de kinderen ook te laten praten.
Especially the way how St. Martin had done the presentation about the jeugdstrafrecht.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than Seba.
Yeah.
But still you can see that it's almost the same thing. So.
Dus er is een verschil tussen Sint Maarten en het jeugdstrafrecht en op Saba.
Nee, I mean the haltzitting. Op Saba we
Okay.
do haltzitting and
Yes.
here they does the tom.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's kind of a little bit the same thing, but just a little bit different.
Oké, maar je gaat heel wat meenemen
Ja,
voor
zeker.
de kids daar.
Ja, zeker.
Nou, je krijgt een warm applaus van ons.
Thank you.
Thank you. Knowledge and innovation to better serve and protect our kids. Abigail Emmanuel. Abby. Oh, but the fan next to you. Wacht maar. Die komt ook wel aan de beurt. Hi. Yes. Knowledge and innovation to better serve and protect our kids. Did you gain that?
Yes, I did.
And-
I did through the workshops,
Yeah.
but also engaging with other professionals also on that level.
Yes. Oh, so nice. Because the man who is sitting next to you, who is he?
He's my groupie.
Yeah? Because maybe we can ask him, of the young man, maybe we can ask him what he gained. Do you want to ask him
Yeah,
that?
sure.
Yes.
Sherman. He's in Man in Pink.
Yeah? And you get the applause from us. I hold it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
hold it.
Yeah, sorry. what?
Usually, if you want me to talk for a second time, you have to pay.
Oh!
Yes. Where's the payment?
Yeah, we are going for a dinner and the task force is paying, so it's okay. At Emilio's.
What did I gain? Especially the first workshop that I followed, which was the communication planning, strategic communication planning. It really opened my eyes to be really specific with what you want to achieve in the community. That to me was very, very informative.
Okay, nice. Thank
yes,
you.
you're welcome.
And you get an applause. And I want to ask somebody from Stasia. Can you? Where are the people from Stasia? They're hiding. Oh, you know what I'm doing, eh? Where? Oh, okay, yes. Hi, hello. What's your name?
I'm Camelia Burko.
Oh, could you stand up? Thank you. Yes. Oh, yeah. What was an eye opener for you?
I like the presentation from Michelda. Yeah, look over there. But I mean, it's things that we all go through, but when you hear it from another island, it's so touching. And from Cassandra Richardson this morning as well, it brings it so much into perspective. And it continues to motivate us as islands and stakeholders to continue to support each other and work together.
Oh, thank you. An applause, please. And somebody from Curaçao, a delegate from Curaçao. Curaçao, where are your hands? I don't see you. Het mag ook in het Nederlands. Unda nos hindi yu Curaçao nanta. Promeo ma puntra bosanda bosanta bosanga applaudisseren te women te mira no hindi te samang. Ja, we moesten even een get together in het papiament hoor. Ja, ja. See? Ja, Curaçao? See? What was an eye-opener for you? What's your name? I hold it. What's your name? Rutlien Kooijman. What was an eye-opener for you?
Both what she said yesterday, Richelda, and today when I saw the lady just acting and said, oh my gosh, it was like real. And Mr. Hussein, it was really an eye-opener. The way they using the same strategy they use to sell Coca-Cola, to do the social thing. So I think we have to bring them over. And the best thing happened is I spoke to UNICEF, so we're going to handle it.
Yes? Oh,
Yes.
thank you, thank you. Yes, she got a big round of applause. And Mr. Hussein, you hear it, eh? No, you didn't hear it? Oh, okay. Oh, yes. You with your jokes and your money? Yeah, but it's okay. And from Bonaire, a delegate from Bonaire. Bonaire, yes, Timoteo. Yeah, Timoteo. Oh, yes. I didn't get the number of Timoteo yet, but
Later.
yeah, later at the dinner after the wine. What was an eye-opener for you, Timoteo?
Well, Mr. Wallace yesterday.
Yes.
And that was very interesting for me. And yesterday I participated in 2 workshops, and it was the high scope, a day in high scope, and the one that Megadi did about media. But the workshop today was a total mind blow for me.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, I was.
Where is she?
Yeah, I don't know, but we cannot say that she's not. She got a break.
Okay.
Yeah, she will come.
No, I think Carla should, is someone that we should bring to all the islands to
Yes.
bring what she does, not only for the youth, but more important for the leaders that works with the youth. Sometimes we expect a lot from the leaders without having them go to a healing process first.
Ja, dat is waar. Wat Timoteo zegt is dat het gewoon heel belangrijk is dat sowieso Kalle naar alle eilanden en ook naar Nederland komt. Maar ook dat het gaat om het connecten. Dat je eerst mensen die beschadigd zijn, kinderen die beschadigd zijn, moeten eerst connecten met zichzelf. Dan ontstaat er ruimte voor de ander en dan ontstaat er ruimte voor de grotere groep. En dat is wat zij bereikt door hele bijzondere oefeningen dat je zelf ervaart. En dan kan je dat ook uiten met elkaar. Want wat was ook alweer 1 in het Zuid-Afrikaans? Ombamba? Omba? Yeah, something. Imumba. Yes, we are one.
Based on that, I want to say too that you go the whole year working,
Yes.
and you're thinking, I have it heavy on my island. I do a lot of on my island, but when you come together here, you realize that everybody is doing a lot on their island.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when we come here, we can share together, and that's great. We're not alone.
We are not alone. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Timoteo. And St. Martin. Yeah, do you want to? Yes? What the eye opener was for you? Oh, I hold it. Oh, I hold it. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, I am not from St. Martin, I am from Aruba. But wat ik eigenlijk wilde vragen, wat is de achterliggende... want voor mij nu, ik zie, want kijk, op een gegeven moment je komt gewoon hier naartoe. Sorry, I go back in English.
Yeah.
Okay, you come, we all as an island came all the islands came here. You all chose Ready, Set, Project. So I was, Protect. So I was like asking myself, nou, wat is de achterliggende gedachte achter deze woorden wat gekozen zijn? Want nu, oh shit, I gone back in, sorry. I gone back in Dutch. I can relate now to these words. Ready, all the islands came together. Set, we're going to do. That was, sorry, I'm getting...
yeah, but it's okay, it's okay.
Yes, set is like when we say, okay, now as islands we're going to do, and now it's to protect.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
so it's very
thank
nice.
you.
That's why I want to know who, because I know when you...
It's a task force, but we are going to listen. Yes, and then... Ja. Gaat helemaal goed komen, gaan we je allemaal vertellen. Bon? Oké, even kijken hoor. Heb ik alle eilanden gehad? No. Ja, Sint Maarten, ja, maar dat is de guestland. Die moet als laatste. Maar verder is everyone, because ja, anders kan ik niet meer van weg. From Sint Maarten, yes? Oh. I hold it. Yeah. Eye opener. Ramiro is going to share something with us.
What I think is very important and what has been confirmed in several of the workshops is this simple thing. Let us listen to the children. Let us listen to them. Let us not make no policies. Let us not do anything without first listening to the children, because it is all about the children. And I think if we go home with this, many will go home with a lot of things that we have learned here. But I go home with one specific thing. I'm going to be listening more to the children, because it's all about the children. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ramiro. And now, St. Martin, our guestland. Who is going to from St. Martin? Aruba. Oh, but Aruba is already. Oh, you want to say something? Okay, Abigail, because you're very... heel snel dan, want we gotta go.
No, I was mentioning to him, I was speaking to my colleagues from the Voogdijraad St. Maarten, and it's a viewpoint. We are here, we are acquiring knowledge, we want to work, and when the reality hits, we need each other. We are here to work interlandelijk. But when they are asking me, we need help to place a child in a internaat, and I have foster care, and I'm telling them, you know, I cannot help you. We have a waiting list of 10 kids. And it should be the government moving. If we have to work, it cannot stay only between us. We have to move the government. We have to move underneath, but we also have to try and move them. And they should want to move together.
Yes, thank you, Abigail. De middelen zijn nodig om ook tot die verandering te komen en ook om de juiste hulp te bieden. Nu gaan we echt naar Sint Maarten. Wie mag ik het woord nog kort geven? Sint Maarten. Sint Maarten, because otherwise I choose, and if you don't look at me, one word that you,
the whole presentation was awesome.
Awesome is the word, yes. Thank you. My sister, awesome. Okay, because the task force, but I only ask you, do you want to come, only you, Mia Sotis, because we're running in time. And I want to ask you, you are the voorzitter from the task force, and they forgot to applaud, but they are going to do that now. And what are you going to do on Saba?
Oké, ik wil eigenlijk iedereen bedanken voor deze hele mooie 2 dagen. IQ-event en ook de vertegenwoordigers van Sint Maarten en van Saba, die dit allemaal voor ons hebben georganiseerd. Wij gaan vol inspiratie, met heel veel motivatie, donderdag in Saba, op Saba weer allemaal mooie plannen verbeteren, maken en opnieuw hershuffelen om de protection van onze kinderen te kunnen waarborgen. Want één ding wil ik echt iedereen aan het hart drukken. Wat er ook gebeurt, onze kinderen, daar doen wij het voor. Dank je wel.
Dankjewel. Miosotis, dankjewel, Jerwood. Thank you. Yes, now I want to ask one thing. You have got a paperclip. The paperclip is that you remember to connect with yourself, connect with the other, and connect with the whole community. And zo'n paperclip. And I forgot this from Clara, but she is coming to the dinner, I think. Okay, now I want to ask your attention for the official closing by the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Mr. Wycliffe Smith. Can he get a big round of applause from us?
Good evening, everyone. I sat there and I listened and I was intrigued by all that I heard. And I think I would also describe the whole conference with that one word, awesome. Would you agree with me? Great. And I would like, before I even start, for us to give a round of applause to our host. She did an excellent job keeping you entertained and on your toes and moving. Very good. Thank you so much. Well, all good things come to an end, they say. And I'm sure that you would have loved to continue with a few more sessions, but you'll have to separate, and hopefully you'll keep in touch with one another via email and other means of communication. And I think Mr. Richards from Bonaire, his main word of advice to us is to listen. Listen to the children. Before we make plans, before we make our policies, we need to hear where they are, what their concerns are, and we also need to be able to guide them to the goals that they have in life. So it's been a very interesting time for the past 2 days for all of you. And I'm sure that many of you now have made new connections across the seas. Yet, within the kingdom, we will work together for our children and for our future. We're now at the closing of this segment of this 3-day conference, the last of which will be held in Saba tomorrow. I wish to thank again the organizers, the Task Force Intercountry Children's Rights, UNICEF, and the Department of Youth Affairs. I also want to recognize the public entity Saba and the Dutch government for their contributions. The keynote addresses were very impressive from what I am hearing, and I hope that they have been taped so that I can get an opportunity to watch them and listen to them. And the workshops were very informative. I happened to be in the very last workshop pertaining to St. Martin, and I know Mr. van Arneman has given an assignment. By the 15th of June, we're to get that assignment to the youth department so that we in St. Martin could start working. Thanks to all the speakers and the presenters for an excellent job. And could we just again give a round of applause to all the speakers. Delegates, many presenters have shared some of the best practices being carried out in our different territories. From St. Martin, presentations covered topics of child protection and safe schools, Return to Happiness, and Art Heals, among other overviews from our local experts on the challenges that our children are facing and provisions that we have made to protect them. Just recently, my team, of which the Secretary General, Mrs. Shermina Powell Richardson, we attended the Second Caribbean Ministerial Forum on School Safety Forum in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And at this second forum, St. Martin and Curacao signed on to the Safe School Initiative, thereby adopting the Antigua and Barbuda Declaration on School Safety. This was premised on the worldwide initiative for safe schools, led by the United Nations, which seeks to motivate and to support governments to develop national strategies and to implement school safety. By collaborating with UNICEF, St. Martin has made significant advances in providing school safety. There is a Safety and Emergency Management Committee in place that has already drafted a contingency plan with protocols for schools for which the ministry will follow. Also, each school is finalizing its own emergency and safety plan. Ministry and school personnel have received training in Return to Happiness and Art Heals, as well as other training in school emergency and safety. They're all planned. For the third forum to be held in 2021, St. Martin has offered to host the event. And I hope that more of you will be there so that all the Caribbean countries within the Kingdom of the Netherlands will be represented. While we're making progress, we still have a long way to go. We cannot waver and we cannot lose momentum. So let us pledge to our children that we will persevere in doing all that we can to protect their future. Children need protection from physical and emotional threats, just as they must be shielded from the elements of hazardous weather. And so as Caribbean people, as citizens of this kingdom, we are resilient. Resilience is in our veins. It feeds our minds and fuels our spirits. This is the fervor that we should pass on to the next generation, to be resilient. With that strength and determination, they will be able to bounce back from any unfortunate experiences that they may have experienced, regardless of the form of its severity. And once we have life, we have hope. And we can. Rather, we will create a better and safer environment for our children and for their future. I want to thank each and every one of you who came to St. Martin, who visited us here. And I hope you still had an opportunity to enjoy some bits and pieces of the island. And of course, we're looking forward to welcoming you back again. We're looking forward also to the next Kingdom Connection. So thank you for coming, and let's, as we leave here, listen to our children and put into practice what we've learned. Otherwise, it was a good conference, but if we don't practice what we preach, all would have been in vain. All the best to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Thank you. Yes, and we are here in the University of St. Martin, and they have give us a great hospitality. Can they get also a big round of applause? And maybe you are watching this thing on my arm the whole conference. It's because I am a diabetic patient. So if I have this as a sensor, then I don't have to put the needles in my finger. So you know that I don't quit smoking or something like that. It was a great honor to be your host. I hope we will see each other at Emilio's, then we can chat a little bit, informal, dance, because we have live entertainment, good food. And thank you. My name is Michelle Maduro, and I will come back to St. Martin. Thank you.